morning. My name is James Sneed, and I am a professional moderator by trade. And I am here to moderate this panel this morning. And our panel is here to discuss the pros and cons of employee referrals in the workplace. I'd like to thank you for coming as managers and employers yourselves. I know you have very busy schedules, so thank you for taking time out of your day to be here with us. I'd like to go ahead and introduce our panelists. Over here we have Madison Harper. He's an undergraduate at St. Edward's University. Here we have Alicia Presler, who is an employee at Flick's Brew House. Jackie Stagg, who is a business liaison for Monster.com. And Mercedes Trevino, who is an executive at the Trump Tower. With that, I'm going to go ahead and lay down the ground rules for our panel. First off, I will be asking the panelists 2 questions, which they'll have a 1.5-minute response time, where I'll have to politely cut them off. Secondly, audience, if I can ask you, hold your questions until the end. We'll have a 5-minute Q&A just for y'all. Now I'd like to go ahead and just jump on into the panel with our first question with Jackie. Jackie, what is your view on employee referrals in the workplace?
My name is Jackie, and I stand for the negative viewpoint of referring friends in the workplace. And my opinion of this is, firstly, if you refer a friend in the workplace and you are doing this to try and help them out, and it turns out that they are seen as a weak candidate, it reflects poorly on the employee that referred them, and it can hurt your reputation in front of management. Secondly, if they are employed, then there's a whole other issue of finding balance between friendship and working professionally together. Sometimes the workplace can be somewhat competitive among your fellow employees, because overall you are kind of competing against your other employees to try and get promoted and work higher up. So if there's a situation where one of the friends gets promoted, then it can be somewhat uncomfortable having to find a different kind of respect for their higher position, which can interfere with friendship and sometimes even end the friendship, which usually tends to happen. So when we're referring a friend, it's very important to make sure that they're at least qualified for the position rather than trying to help them out.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Now I'd like to direct the basically the same question over to Madison, just the opposite end. What's your view on the positive effects of employee referrals?
Right. Hey James, my name is Madison Harper. I'm an undergraduate student at St. Edward's University, and I believe that referrals in the workplace are a positive thing. I think that personally I've benefited from referrals for my career preparation, and I think that referrals provide opportunity for people, because you're not saying when you give a referral or when you receive a referral, you're not saying that you have the job. It's just putting another person in the pool for being hired. So it branches out and creates more opportunity for everybody in the workplace. I think that personally, when I start off workplaces, I've been referred and I've created better opportunity and productivity for the company, because they give me a role that I have to fulfill. That also brings me to another point, that when I've also worked, when you're referred by either friends or family or people that you know, and I've felt a responsibility working for these people, that friends and family, to provide better productivity in the workplace.
Thank you. Now you talked about family referrals. I'd like to actually build on that and ask Mercedes, what's your view on family referrals in the workplace?
Like James said, my name is Mercedes Trevino, and I am an executive at Trump Tower. And I think the views of being a family reference, like James did in his situation, is that there are good and bad sides to it. The good side is that it's easy to have good communication, good workers, because you know the family, or you know the family member in that family, and it is good to have that good work ethic and good ethics and morals that the family member has. Also, later it could influence the employees that are working there now to hire their friends or reference their friends to work there too, because of the great work environment, the good ethics, the good things. But there also could be bad things, which are they could start forming groups or cliques in the workplace, which could cause lack of communication, lack of motivation, and lack of productivity in the company eventually, and that could be a downfall for the company later on in the future.
Thank you. Now you brought up cliques, and I'm going to go ahead onto that topic here. Over to Alicia. Now, Alicia, what do you think about cliques in the workplace?
Well, as James said, my name is Alicia Pressler, and I personally think that personal referrals within the workplace is a good thing. And as far as cliques go, I've had experience with cliques. And my very first job, I referred my best friend, and we ended up referring another friend, and it ended up just basically going, and almost everybody that worked there were a part of our group of friends. Now, some people think that's not a good thing because it would affect our relationships with each other, but it really didn't. And it ended up making going to work a lot more fun, and it made us look forward to work. And since we knew each other outside of work, we knew how to talk to each other. So if there was a problem at work, we knew how to handle it because we knew what would get through to this person. And so it also helped with management because they knew if they were unsure of how to approach somebody, they could ask one of us and we could give them advice. And it ended up just making everything a lot better, and it made everything a lot more smooth in the workplace. So I definitely recommend that.
All right, thank you. Now I'd like to take that same question and just flip it over to Jackie. Jackie, what's your view on the negative aspects of having cliques in the workplace?
My view on cliques in the workplace, I strongly don't recommend because of the fact that imagine a larger work environment such as the office. You're going to have a larger group dynamic, a lot of different people that are drawn to certain people or tend to stay away from other people. So already you kind of have these groups forming. When you refer friends in the workplace, it becomes a lot easier to create these groups. And by creating these groups, you can create communication barriers, which can affect the productivity in the workplace and overall are not a good direction for the company to head in.
All right, thank you. Now I'm going to go ahead and change pace here. We're going to go over to Madison again, and I'm going to ask you, Madison, do you think referrals affect the productivity of a company?
I think that referrals are able to increase the productivity and efficiency within a company. I think if you're working with people that have been referred, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're underqualified for the job because they were referred. It could be someone from a different company that's been brought in because they have more expertise within their topic or field. And I think that bringing them in, it helps bring everybody together. You have a common goal with what you're working with. As long as you understand your role within the company, you're hired, and this is your job description. You are in a professional setting, so you have a responsibility to fulfill that role that they give you. And I think that it's beneficial to have these relationships, and if it is someone close that has been referred, then I think that that helps with productivity because you may bring your workplace outside of the work environment. You may say, hey, we're hanging out this weekend, hey, I have this idea, let's bring it into, on Monday, and let's work with it. You can bounce around these ideas outside of the workplace as well as in the workplace, so it increases that productivity.
Fantastic, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and flip that same question to Mercedes on you stand sort of in the middle. Mercedes, do you think referrals affect productivity?
I think they do. Like James says, it causes good efficiency and productivity in the company. And I also believe it's good for communication, good for motivation and effectiveness in the company, because without great motivation, you don't have employees that will work good for you or won't have the work ethic to do their work or do it correctly. And the communication level has to be good, because if you don't communicate, there's a flaw in the company which could eventually cause failure in the company, which is not good for companies usually, because you need to succeed. You need to make money or whatever company that you're working for. But there are bad sides to it, which, like Alicia and Jackie said earlier, it could cause cliques, or which could be good or bad, which usually end up either way, just depends on your work environment. If it does turn out to be bad, the lack of communication and motivation in the workplace could cause it to fail. And also one thing that some companies do is reference friends so that, so the company can get more workers, more employees. And usually that employee will get a reference bonus, and that could cause a
No, I'm afraid I'm going to cut you off right there and pass the stick on to Alicia for our last question here. Now, Alicia, do you think referral bonuses are beneficial to a company?
Well, like she was starting to get into, I do think that it does affect productivity with bonuses, but I think it affects it in a positive way. Because if you, I know that in most companies, at least more so like corporate companies, if you refer somebody, depending on how long that person, if that person's hired, and depending on how long they stay with the company, you get a certain bonus. It could be any amount depending on the company. Now, if I knew that that was something I could get, I would definitely recommend somebody, but I would recommend somebody that's good. I wouldn't try to just recommend anybody for the position if I knew that they weren't good for it, because then it would look bad on me, and I would want to make me look as good as possible to the company and to the management, because I'd want to move up. So that's it. It's something that would, I feel like it should boost people to want to do this, and it'll affect productivity in a good way. And it basically just like improves morale all around, because people know this is a possibility for them, they're going to do it. And by doing this and recommending good people, it ends up making a higher quality group of people that are coming into the workplace, which makes people work better, and productivity ends up going higher.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to go ahead and recap on our panelists' points of views here. Now, Jackie was against employee referrals, citing that they lead to cliques, which are eventually end in hostile relations in the office. Alicia just talked to us about referral bonuses, that they in fact do help productivity in the workplace. And Madison built on that as well, saying that employee referrals do build good productivity in the workplace, and they are overall good. And Mercedes stood sort of in the middle. She talked about how it just depends on the workplace, depends on the managerial techniques and how they work, and just the overall environment of the office. Now I'd like to go ahead and thank you guys for coming again, and thank you panelists for bringing your expertise to the table today. I'm going to go ahead and dive on into the 5 to 10 minute Q&A. So with that, are there any questions? Yes?
How can your company make sure this referral program will really work?
All right, I'm going to go ahead and direct that to Alicia. And again, that was, how can our company make sure a referral program really works?
Well, it depends on the management styles. If the management doesn't really care, they're just like, oh, you recommended somebody, cool, we'll go ahead and hire them, without really looking and checking. And if they don't look up and check, and this person ends up being a bad person, then it could really fall on either the person. It falls on both the person that did the referring as well as the management for not really looking into the person correctly. So for this to really work, the people who are doing the referring need to make sure that they're not just referring to anybody, and the management needs to step in after that and make sure that this is actually going to be a good company or a good person to help the company be beneficial.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Yes?
In your opinion, is it bad to have friends in the workplace?
All right, I'm going to direct that to Jackie, actually. And that question is, in your opinion, is it good to have friends in the workplace?
I would say that not necessarily. Mainly my point is bringing friends into the workplace is frowned upon compared to making friends in the workplace. If you go into a workplace without really knowing anybody, you go in with an open mind and you're more interested in getting to know the people around you, which overall builds a better community for the workplace, and it prevents separation of people and cliques, such as what I was saying earlier. So overall, I think that going in without any friends is beneficial towards the company and for yourself. You get to meet new people.
Thank you. Any other questions? In the back.
What are the effects if a reference is not hired?
All right. Mercedes, I'm going to direct that one to you. The question is, what are the effects if a reference is not hired?
Usually, most of the time, the effects is that the employee or person that references the person usually doesn't know why their friend or person that they recommended didn't get hired, and that usually is because either it wasn't because of the employee's fault most of the time, it was because of what the interviewee didn't do right, or the credentials weren't right or something. It wasn't necessarily the employee's fault for their friend or family member or whoever it is for being hired, and usually that person could take it a hard way, but most of the time it's usually in a good way. And they'll usually, top management should tell the employee why that their friend or whoever did not get hired, so that way they can keep looking for the person or friend that they know to keep, referring to the company, so that way they can have a good workplace environment still in the company.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
What are the expectations of a person being referred?
All right, I'm directing that one over to Madison, and that was, what are the expectations of a person being referred?
Okay, I think that I'm going to touch on kind of what Lisa said earlier, is how, there's, when you're being referred or when someone's referring you, they're kind of putting themselves out on the line. So, if you're not qualified for a position, then you shouldn't be referred for a position. And I think that if you're going to be referred, then you come up with your best foot forward. You're always going to try to be what you need to be. You're not going to make up false credentials, but you're going to try to fulfill whatever role you're applying for, because you go into a business and they say, this is what we're looking for, this is what we need for the company. So I think coming in, even if you're referred, you're going in just as any other employee is, and saying, okay, well, this is the job description, this is what I would like to do. Just because you have the referral doesn't mean that you have a step up from someone else. It just means that it just puts you in that pool. So I think that you need to just try to fulfill that role that you're given within the company.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Well, with that, I'd like to again thank you for coming, and thank you, panelists, and that will conclude our panel today.